I told Sam about this, but it bears repeating. I was having a conversation with someone as an executive at YouTube, and I asked them why someone got a community guideline strike on their account because they posted up a video on their playlist that they enjoyed of Sam Harris and Douglas Murray engaged in a conversation. I go, why would that get you a community guideline strike? And this woman said, because it's hate speech.
I got a problem with the last name Murray, apparently. I got Charles Murray and Douglas Murray causing me problems.
This is somebody who worked at YouTube.
Yes, she was a big executive at YouTube. She said it's hate speech. And I told her, I go, did you listen to it? I go, you didn't listen to it. I go, this is stunning that you would just say it's hate speech, that you would just be so dismissive of it so quickly. Yeah. And she talked to me as if I was her employee. Yeah. Like I was not allowed to question her, and she was just going to say what she said, and I was going to shut up. And it was a fascinating conversation.
Was this here on your show?
No, this is in Hawaii on vacation.
No, but it was. I did a podcast with Douglas, and apparently it got flagged. Someone else put it up on their account, and it got flagged as hate speech. And so
as a community guideline strike, so you can get your account removed.
Well, so I've got a phrase for this, and I've been rallying for it on social media for a couple of months now, and I call it a digital blind spot. There's a cultural bias on social media, where and it's intellectually lazy because social media is essentially a Californian invention, right? And we're in the home state of where most of this came from. It's got a very Californian-based worldview, which cares a lot about white supremacy and doesn't care about many other forms of bigotry that exist out there in the rest of the world, which, by the way, is the majority of the world. So on Twitter right now, of course, there's Milo Yiannopoulos has been banned. Tommy Robinson has been banned, as in taken off. Now, Twitter's a private company.
Tommy Robinson?
He's the former leader of the British English Defence League, which was at one time Europe's largest anti-Muslim street protest group. I helped him leave that organisation. He's still got many views I completely disagree with. But nevertheless, he doesn't support or nor advocate for terrorism.
Why was he removed?
Well, so Twitter is a private company. It can choose to remove whoever it wants for whatever reason, and we will judge it for its inconsistencies. But he was ostensibly removed for hate speech, as was Milo Yiannopoulos. Now, the point being that still, till this day, and before people misquote me and completely say that I'm now defending hate speech and their right to speak with hateful views on Twitter, this is my actual point, that till this day, did you know that Hezbollah, which is a known and recognized terrorist organization. So forget hate speech for a moment. A terrorist organization that believes in actually killing civilians. And Hamas, a known and recognized terrorist organization that believes in bombing babies on buses as a form of resistance. They still have accounts on Twitter. And my point is this is the blind spot, you know? And I've flagged Twitter about this on many an occasion. This is the cultural blind spot. This is the digital blind spot that the dude sitting in California, in wherever, who is monitoring this stuff, and it's probably more than one person, they don't give a shit that there's some brown person in the Gaza Strip that believes it's okay to kill Jewish babies. They don't give a shit because it's a brown person saying it in the name of Islam. What they care about is a non-violent yet says stupid things guy, because he's white, called Tommy Robinson in England, or Milo Yiannopoulos, saying stuff that that touches their sensitivities. And it's so intellectually lazy to flag that immediately and to bar it from social media because you're comfortable with it. You recognize white supremacy. It doesn't take any effort to recognize it. You don't have to invest in studying this stuff to know what white supremacy is. It takes a bit of effort to study brown people's ideas that you're unfamiliar with and recognize here's a terrorist organization that's freely operating on social media. I know specifically on Twitter. I've actually pulled up their handles.
I think one of the concerns that Twitter has, and I think this is a valid concern, is that when you have people that are saying hateful things, and you have people that are saying whether it's white supremacy or whatever, even if it's stupid, the problem is there's a rallying cry of trolls that follow behind them, and it builds up momentum, and it gets pretty stunning. And that was what was happening with Milo. And by silencing Milo off Twitter, they have essentially removed him from the public discourse. You don't hear about him anymore.
That's right.
Because of this, because of these things.
But imagine what that does in Arabic with the terrorist groups.
Yes.
Like everything you've just said, by the way, I agree with, and multiply that for groups that have infrastructure in multiple countries with actual organizational hierarchies and planned means of distributing their ideas across entire populations, physically fighting in wars right now, such as Hezbollah in Syria, killing Sunni Muslim rebels, you know? And so imagine that and the way you're able to rally a mob in Pakistan on blasphemy, as an example. All it takes for some person on social media to accuse another person of blasphemy, and they're probably going to get killed the very next day.
Right.
And it happens all the time. But because these Californian-based social media companies are unaware of the cultural implications of those sorts of organizations and groups, and listed terrorist groups, mind you, there's completely no barring on any of their activity.
There's also the same thing that you have with YouTube and with a lot of these other social media organizations and companies, is they don't have to respond or give you any reasons.
Yeah.
They can say it violates our terms, but what are those terms? Those terms aren't even listed. It would be vague, like no hate speech. Okay, well, what's hate speech? Like what are you saying? Like what is your clear policy? What are your guidelines? How does someone avoid violating your guidelines? They don't say.
Yeah, and how is the president of the United States not violating those terms?
Yeah.
Well, demonetization is another way that they do it. They'll remove the ability to put advertising on a conversation that they don't like. And it doesn't have to be like my conversation with Douglas Murray was demonetized.
Without any explanation.
None. Zero. They don't have to.
Douglas is...
He's talking.
So he's clearly flagged on their. He's clearly flagged,
100%. Yeah. But if you
That's
listen
amazing.
to the actual context of our conversation, there was nothing even remotely hateful about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, these are private companies. They've got the right to choose whatever policy. The only thing I would expect from a private company is show a consistent policy towards these things. You know, if you don't like hate speech, then ban brown people who are also advocating more than just the hate speech, but actually preaching violent terrorism.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's a strange time for this, man, because it's also a time where you can communicate so instantaneously. It's fantastic in that regard. You can get ideas out so quickly, but these hubs of information, like where the information gets distributed, they're controlled by people that I don't think ever knew that they were going to have this sort of responsibility. I think you're seeing that with Zuckerberg and these trials or the speeches that he's given in front of Congress. Like when you see him on television talking about it, you get the sense that this is a guy that never prepared for this, had no idea this was going to happen, and then all of a sudden, from this simple social media platform that was supposed to be friends sharing photos and just talking about
Girls.
nonsense.
It was set up to pull women.
There was a lot of that, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, and what was Twitter? I mean, Twitter was essentially just, do you remember the old days at Twitter? It would be, you would use your name, like, is doing this. Like Sam Harris, like Sam Harris is at the movies. You would say that almost if you were in a third person.
Yeah.
That was the original form that people would use
I might
Twitter.
have come after that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird way of talking, and then people started just writing what they thought, and it just became ideology, and then it became sharing links and interesting articles is a big part of it. But
to me, that's the only good part of it now. Like I've just discovered that, and that's most of my attachment to it. I mean, I genuinely use it as a curated newsfeed, because I follow interesting people. They tweet interesting stuff, and I consume it that way. But noticing what's coming back at me in the @mentions, so I put something out, a podcast, and then I look to see how it's being received on Twitter, and I don't tend to do that in other forums. I don't really look at Facebook comments much. I don't look at YouTube. I mean, YouTube is just a cesspool, right? I mean, so even if they're for you, the comments are horrible.
why is that?
I don't know. It started
on YouTube,
phenomenon.
I think, by the way.
Yeah.
Nastiness started on the YouTube comment threads.
It's
and then